This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Liverpool 1, Manchester City 4. Liverpool's title defence in tatters as Man City chalk up their first win at Anfield in almost 18 years. Alisson Becker look away. Welcome to the debrief here on the Blood Red channel. I'm Clarke, Matt Addison with me, and Ilkay Gundogan brace with Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden also on the score sheet for City. Matt, Mohamed Salah's penalty that pulled the Reds level seems an awful long time ago now.
Yeah, it certainly does, doesn't it? It's one of those which is really, really difficult to take, I think, for Liverpool. There was not a lot in the game, was there, until those 2 or 3 minutes from Alisson that just you completely do not expect to see it from somebody like him. And from that point, Manchester City just ran away with it. I think safe to say that the Premier League title is completely gone now for Liverpool. I think they had to win today. A draw, I don't think even probably would have been enough. And that is the frustration that Liverpool have lost 3 home games in a row for the first time in 50-odd years. So, yeah, I think that the title is safely gone now. I'm not massively concerned about the top 4. I think Liverpool have still got enough. I don't think we should go over the top. But you know, the top 4, if you just said Liverpool come in the top 4 but don't win the league this season, that would have been a massive disappointment. And, you know, we have to acknowledge that is the case at this moment in time. And yeah, for Liverpool now, it's all about the Champions League. It's all about making sure they're back in it next season and going as far as they can in the tournament this season. Because, yeah, after today, you just cannot see anybody other than Manchester City winning the Premier League title this weekend.
Was it 10 minutes of madness that the game got away from Liverpool, Matt, or did they get what they deserved today?
I mean, look, the 10 minutes was what killed it. I think a draw for Liverpool wouldn't have been, you know, the worst result in the world in terms of the way the game went. I think Manchester City did edge it. They had their moments, of course they did. There was the penalty miss in the first half that you can't really, you know, get away from as well. It was a stupid tackle or attempt at a tackle from Fabinho. They could have easily, you know, gone and scored that, and who knows what would have happened from that point. I don't think Liverpool did particularly well. They didn't sort of attack in the cohesive way that we know that they can. But again, it's not a huge shock. They've not done that, you know, really since, you know, the back end of the last calendar year. So, look, I think for me, it came down to that 10 minutes. I think if Liverpool didn't make those stupid individual errors, of course, they could have still gone on and lost it. Somebody like Phil Foden could have popped up with a goal that he did, and they could have ended up losing by a goal to 1 or something like that. I think, you know, the way that the result has come about, the shambles that unfolded in that 10-minute spell is what makes it, I think, even bigger. I think that's the big thing that we're going to be talking about throughout the next few days into next weekend. It is not just that Liverpool have lost, but they've sort of fallen to pieces a little bit there. They've not just, you know, lost to a title rival, but they've been humiliated almost. The goals that have gone in, the way that those goals have gone in, and look, we know that there's, you know, the sort of mitigating circumstances. We know the centre-back situation, we know the injuries, but you still expect a performance and a fight really from Liverpool, which, you know, even when the game was a 1-0 or 1 each, it just wasn't quite there. I think that the real disappointment is the fact that they've gone on to lose by a 3-goal margin, because, you know, Liverpool shouldn't be doing that even against a team as good as Manchester City. But, you know, even if it had only been by the odd goal, it still would have felt like a massive opportunity missed for Liverpool, because, as I say, they just had to win today, and they didn't really ever look likely to do that.
No, I suppose rode their luck with conceding the penalty, albeit in the first half. That probably during Liverpool's best spell, certainly within the first half. You may even argue now within the game itself, but sort of got let off with that. But it didn't take City long into the second half to strike. Gundogan did get that goal just 4 minutes into the second half. And then I suppose even from that moment there, Liverpool had an uphill battle on their hands.
Yeah, as soon as they went a goal down, you did worry for them. I mean, they got themselves back into it, of course, with the penalty. I think Salah does really, really well. You know, turns it inside and draws that foul. It's a blatant penalty. There's no doubt about that. But, you know,
could it have been a red card, Matt?
No, I don't think so. I think John Stones was covering, wasn't he? I think it's one of those. If Stones had been 2 or 3 yards further back, then 100% it's a red card. But I think there was just enough cover really to make that a yellow card, and there's no real issues with that. But the issue and the worry for me for Liverpool was that it took that penalty for them to look like scoring. There was no other moments in the game really where you really felt that they would get at them, and all it took was one ball from Trent into the forwards direct, quick, pacey. That's what Liverpool do best. And as soon as they did that, they really did cause Manchester City problems. But it was only on that one occasion. Of course, they make the most of that occasion, but then you want them to kick on again, and they just didn't quite manage to do that. And as I say, there are mitigating circumstances. We know exactly, what the problems have been for Liverpool this season, but I don't think that's an excuse or a reason really for them not to have put in a better performance and ran and pressed and done everything they could. They just looked a little bit tired, whether that's physical, whether that's mental, I don't know, but yeah, they didn't look themselves today. Manchester City, I think, deserved winners. And the thing that really hurts, obviously, is that they're out of the title race, but the way that they sort of folded at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the goal there, the first goal at Anfield in 2021, and it's come from the penalty spot. There is still, I get it's Manchester City. They've been in an incredible run defensively, but take out the goals at one end of the pitch, as you said, there didn't really seem to be all that much fluency at the top end of the pitch either. First half in particular, Firmino had that effort. Mane had a couple of headers, but there wasn't really anything all too much that was troubling for Addison.
No, I mean, first half, I wasn't massively surprised that the game played out like that. I think a point would have been a decent result for Manchester City. I think for Liverpool, it was a case of not leaving themselves exposed on the counter-attack and things like that for Manchester City. We know how good they are. We unfortunately saw it in the second half. So I can understand why Liverpool sort of played it a little bit cautious, and Manchester City did as well, to be honest, in that first half. But then in the second half, as the game wears on, you expected Liverpool to be the ones who took the game by the scruff of the neck, because it was more important for them to win this game than it was for Manchester City in terms of the title race. They had to go and they had to win it and they had to try, but they didn't quite do that. And that's the disappointment. I think, there's a couple of strange decisions. I can understand why Klopp wants to bring Xherdan Shaqiri onto the pitch, for example, but to take off Curtis Jones, who I thought was probably Liverpool's best player, to be honest, on the field on the day, to take him off, I think was, really, really a strange decision. And, I can't quite remember exactly when it was in the game, but at least you'd keep him on for 10 or 15 minutes more just to see what happens, knowing, that he is the one that has sort of been the one to take a few risks, really. I think that's what Liverpool had to do. There was always the risk that, as I say, you could get counter-attacked and Manchester City could go up the other end and score a couple of goals. And if they did that, you would just have to hold your hands up. But Liverpool needed to sort of get hold of the ball, try and dribble past a couple of players, try and create something. And Curtis Jones was sort of the one glimmer of hope that you had that they might be able to do that. And as soon as he comes off the pitch, it's just one of those things that it didn't really feel right at the time. And I think everybody, apart from Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff, was saying that. So it was a strange decision. I think Liverpool, at that point in time, they needed to go and get a goal or two. And Curtis Jones, for me, would have been the more likely of the players to be able to do that.
Yeah, certainly he was one of the players to come into the side. Alisson Becker also back, but very different fortunes for him tonight. Matt, he's been at the club now and been one of or if not the world's best goalkeeper ever since arriving at Anfield, but this certainly one to forget for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm almost reluctant to criticise him because he is the world's best goalkeeper. He's been fantastic for Liverpool. It's the first time really that we've seen him make mistakes that have really mattered, but there's no getting away from it. It was a really poor few minutes from him. There was a couple of things he'd done earlier in the game which, maybe on another day would have been a little bit sharper. Maybe he doesn't push the ball out, for example, with the Gundogan goal when Phil Foden shoots. And maybe I'm being a little bit harsh there. He probably didn't have a great space to push it into, but probably back towards the middle of the 6-yard box wasn't the best. But yeah, then when you're trying to play out of the back, the two mistakes, you really can't describe exactly what's gone wrong there. I think the second one probably doesn't happen if the first one happens, but it's just one of those things of somebody of his experience. You don't expect either of them to happen. And with the first one having happened, you just expect him to put his foot through it with the second one. But yeah, he doesn't seem to learn his lesson. I mean, I don't know whether I'm reading too much into this, but of course he did miss the game midweek through illness. Maybe they've rushed him back. Maybe he wasn't quite fully focused and fully fit as he should have been. But again, it's no excuse. It's not something we've come to expect. And as I say, I'm reluctant to sort of go in too hard on him, but it really has cost Liverpool. Look, they might have lost the game anyway, even if he hadn't have made those two mistakes. But yeah, I think the way that the game unfolded, it's just such a disappointment. And something that he's going to have to just bounce back from. We know he's made sort of errors in the past and bounced back, but those errors haven't necessarily cost Liverpool dearly as they have done today. So, yeah, it's going to be a big few weeks, I think, for him to be able to put that right. But, yeah, in terms of the title, I'm afraid it's too late for him to do that.
Before we go then, is this 10 minutes of madness to write off a run of form that now needs to end here following this result? Or is this something deeper rooted now? It seems to have been going on for a lot longer than we all sort of care for and wish would be going on. Only 2 wins in 9 Premier League games now.
Yeah, look, it's a worry. We knew that this was the case. Even if Liverpool had won today, I don't think they would have ever, looked back anywhere near their best or anything like that. It's the injuries for me. I mean, we can talk about fans, we can talk about anything. I think that the fans, the point about them not being inside Anfield actually for this game is probably, the biggest difference that the fans inside it would have made. We've seen that in the past with Manchester City, with Raheem Sterling in particular, with 1 or 2 moments. You think of when Addison made a couple of mistakes with his feet early doors, that would have then got the crowd up and that would have helped Liverpool. So I think that's sort of as big an explanation in this game as any other game, certainly. But the injuries for me, you can't look away from those. When Liverpool have had so many players out, even with Fabinho, Mane, Alisson back in today, they still didn't look at their best, and they've still got 2 central midfielders at centre back, haven't they? At the end of the day, so yeah, look, it's one of those things you can analyse it, but Liverpool have just been so unfortunate this season. Hopefully, they get 1 or 2 of those players back by the Champions League knockout stages. Obviously. Not too long to go now before they play Leipzig. Hopefully, maybe there's 1 or 2 more to be added back into the mix. Naby Keita, certainly you'd hope, would be back by that point and be able to make a bit of a difference for Liverpool. But yeah, for me, it's a huge disappointment. All eyes now on the Champions League for Liverpool. And I think the explanation for that will be looked into. There's things about refreshing the squad. There's mistakes maybe from Jurgen Klopp with substitutions and things like that. And the fans as well, as I say, look, they all play their part. But for me, it's really, really hard to look past the injury situation.
Yeah, title hopes in tatters for the Red Machine, stalling right now somewhat Jurgen Klopp's side after the 4-1 home defeat to Manchester City. But from myself, Guy Clarke and Matt Addison, thanks for your time and your company here on The Debrief. It's bye for now.
This is the Blood Red Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.